Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. And I gotta say, a very enjoyable Monday Night Raw for pretty much most of the 3 hours. I personally didn't encounter any segments that really bored me or irritated me. We got quite a few wrestling matches, and more than that, quite a few unique matchups just overall. And I think some very good build towards Fastlane, if I do say so myself. But don't take my word for it. Let's get my cohort and commentary's opinion. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, the first match was the only one that I really kind of groaned at because it was Reigns versus Big Show again. But after that, man, I mean, and even the opening segment, the talking segment, which, I mean, even on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, they pointed out is becoming a problem. But the old 25-minute opening talking segment, I didn't mind. It was pretty good. The Authority did their thing. Cena was nowhere to be seen, which made me super happy. Usually it's, Cena and the Authority on every single opener. And, there was just enough different about tonight that I felt like it was a really good show, but there wasn't enough different about tonight that it felt like a different show completely.
Right. It wasn't like this show transcended anything really beyond the usual that we're used to, and it's like, this is a must-see Raw. It
really felt like it's crazy because I feel like when we do our high spots, low shots, like I'm almost tempted to make Triple H my high spot just because of some of the ridiculous meta statements that he made, and then being on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast afterwards and winning everybody who watched that over twice and 3 times over again and again, like with every question that he answered, just winning the fans over that are watching it. He had an amazing day today. He was on point on promos. He was on point in backstage segments. And then he had that amazing podcast, and just Triple H is amazing.
Yeah, tonight, for sure, I think he really shined. The Authority as a whole, I liked what they did. But hell, let's get right into it with our first segment, Heat of the Night. And again, I really don't have any heats of the night tonight. There were no segments that agitated me or bored me, so I'm good for tonight. What about you? Do you have any heats of the night tonight?
I don't have any heats of the night because I've had this as a heat of the night so many times in the past that to use it again, it would feel repetitive. So I'm just going to make it a nitpick.
Right.
JBL, commentary. I feel like we've been on this road before. Tonight, though, he straight up buried Curtis Axel.
Yeah, he did. I didn't really care.
Now, I'm not trying to say that Curtis Axel necessarily deserves better, but when somebody comes out and you straight up say that people should change the channel, it makes it really difficult to not understand why the undercard guys can't get over.
I completely agree with you there. But you know what? Rather than having this whole discussion, because like you said,
there's not even really much discussion to be had. You and
right.
I both agree it was a scumbag move on JBL's part.
Right.
Honestly, it did really frustrate me. I'm going to be perfectly honest, though. It didn't frustrate me as much as it frustrated me when he buried the Ascension that first time.
Right.
Because of the fact that the Ascension were like this new, fresh talent, and he basically just chopped them off at the knees when they first showed up. Whereas with Axel, he's kind of been there. He's kind of done that. He's, he had his push already. They kind of realized that it wasn't going to work out long term. He wasn't going to be a main event guy, and he's kind of been relegated since then. So I still, to me, it's not necessarily unforgivable that he buried Curtis Axel because it was almost a comedy segment because of the whole Dean Ambrose thing. What was unforgivable was that he basically just said change the channel.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to use this space to point out something before I forget. Conversely, I thought Booker T did very well tonight on commentary again.
Booker T was phenomenal. Booker T, and I'm going to say this. Booker T was phenomenal. Michael Cole was the good version of Michael Cole tonight.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair because I don't necessarily think Michael Cole has ever really been phenomenal, but when he's good, he's on. And he's good, and he can be good, and he can be really good. And he was good tonight. But JBL tried his damnedest to offset Booker T.
Yeah, I didn't like that, because why I wanted to praise Booker T to begin with was he really tried to, the Ascension. He tried to give him great coverage, saying, hey, we were just like that. We had chips on our shoulders too, Harlem Heat and the teams you were with, John, I think it was referencing the APA. And JBL tried to undercut that, and I'm like, JBL, why are you going against the grain of your own product that you're supposed to be helping promote? It makes no sense. But Booker T, I think, has been so strong in this spot. Nothing against Jerry Lawler, because I don't want to be mean to anybody, but it really is refreshing having Booker T behind that announce desk compared to what Lawler was doing. And I think Lawler being on SmackDown has kind of helped him too. So I think everybody's really come away a winner. If only JBL would get on board and be part of the team, So that's that. So anything else you want to address before we get into our formal review?
Yeah. I think that about covers it. I don't have any other real heats of the night or nitpicks or anything like that. This was a really solid show. I think this might be the best show that we've gotten of the year. And I know that that's only like comparing it to 4 other shows, but still, I mean, our first show of the year was kind of iffy. I feel like one of the shows, so maybe not, maybe I'm just running my wheels and this is the first decent show of the year. And I've just been so kind of desensitized to crappy shows that this feels like a shining light in a really dark tunnel.
Right. So with that said, let us get right into our Monday Night Raw review. And of course we open up with the Authority. And they do have a bit of fun here. First, they let the announcement build because they talk about, the Super Bowl, what a great game, huh? And then, of course, the fans, they boo, because, they're putting over the Patriots and said, they were our team and they won and it was great. And because it's best for business, which that was pretty weird because it's like, oh, they bought the Super Bowl. It was all a fix. But then Triple H jokes that he hopes the NFL can survive with the new
No. Yeah, I was just going to say, this entire promo was relating the Super Bowl to the Royal Rumble and the Patriots to Roman Reigns. It was so inside baseball. It was so meta. It was the metaphors were so real in this promo. It was amazing.
Well, I just love how they just threw it back in the fans' faces, because I think heels should do that. And they did it in such an intelligent way. It wasn't like the typical way, like, oh, you guys suck and we're going to do what we want. No, it was so clever how they tied it all together.
Yeah.
Triple H says, well, the Royal Rumble had its share of controversy as well. And, pretty much they go over Kane and Big Show's interference first.
Dude.
And
you didn't even cover the best part. Triple H actually made a reference to the old cancel WWE Network thing where he said something about how he wonders if the NFL can survive with the new cancel NFL Network movie.
Actually, I did mention that.
You did?
Yeah, I did. You must not have heard me.
Oh, my bad.
To resume, Triple H says, the Rumble did have a share of controversy. The Authority agrees. They show Kane and Big Show interfering, and they say that was,
unsportsmanlike
conduct. Yeah, like the Seahawks, so they continue the football references. But then The Rock is their primary problem. Rock came in, he leveled the playing field, and he says, I don't have a problem with The Rock, but he had no business being there. And then he talks about how these guys, they're like big stars, and then they feel like because they have a name, they should be in the building and do whatever they want, and that's why Triple H says he's going to be addressing Sting. He said, I let Sting get away with that at Survivor Series, but now I'm going to settle that at at Fastlane, excuse me. And so, Triple H is kind of promoting all that now. So again, it's taking us forever to get this announcement. But then, Stephanie, she plugs, of course, the network. Like, you can watch it all on the network for $9.99, and new subscribers for this month get it free. And then they finally get around to Roman Reigns, and there is an initial pop there. I know there's this continuous debate.
Dude, the pop that he got when his music hit was massive.
Yeah, it was. I know there's this debate going on. Is he loved? Is he hated? Whatever. But on this night, I think the crowd was very receptive.
I think that there's only one correct answer to that question.
Which is?
It depends on what crowd they're in front of.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, if you're in Chicago or Philly or Brooklyn, yeah, he's probably going to be hated a little bit more. And the funny thing is the trajectory that he was on tonight and the way that he acted tonight, I kind of feel like he's going to start to even get those towns behind him.
I think he will as well. Reigns was very interesting tonight with his interactions with everybody, which we'll get to here, at least at the start, in just a second. Because Stephanie starts to bring up, he will officially go down as the Rumble winner, but questions if he should go to face Brock Lesnar, for the title at WrestleMania remain. Then his music hits, and we get that pop that you mentioned, Ashton, because the crowd just exploded. He hits the ring, and he immediately gets in Triple H's face. And he asks if they're just going to take the title shot away from him. Hell no, he says, and I love that. It's like Reigns is pissed, man. He's going to fight for what's his. And him and Triple H just lock eyes. Triple H just looking like, Roman, we're going to do this? But then Stephanie steps in between them, says, guys, don't do this. And Stephanie's very interesting here because you can tell she's really pulling the strings and I think trying to play Roman Reigns. Because she says, what about your family? Don't you want to prove to your family that you belong? Do you really want it to go down this way? And you have to prove to them that you can go to WrestleMania. And then when, I guess, word gets out that the title shot is open, Daniel Bryan comes out. And he pretty much, lays down the gauntlet. He says, hey, you guys stripped me of the championship, and I never got my rematch. And so if we're talking about an open main event at WrestleMania, I want in on that. The authority is like, well, Daniel, we only stripped you because you couldn't defend your championship because you got injured, blah, blah, blah. So then, Bryan ultimately throws down the gauntlet. Fans are going crazy. Then Seth Rollins comes out. I'm not going to lie. I thought Curtis Axel was going to come out at some point. That did not happen here. Seth Rollins comes out instead. And I'm not going to lie, dude. I laughed so hard with the burn he got on Daniel Bryan. Because, at first he has a little bit of a malfunction with the microphone, and we actually cut to commercial here, which made no sense to me. But then it comes back.
Well, it was because of the technical difficulty with the microphone.
Yeah, and then it's like, live TV, huh? And then he goes on to Bryan, and he says, you really think that you should be in the main event of WrestleMania? You lost at the Rumble, and more importantly, he goes to his health issues, and he says, you got hurt, so you have nobody to blame but yourself. Welcome to the big leagues where the big boys play. And I love that.
That's such a Kevin Nash quote, though.
I know, right? And he also makes mention how Brock Lesnar would eat Bryan alive. So playing into some criticisms of the whole Bryan-Brock matchup, which I loved as well. And then Rollins turns to Reigns and says, you wouldn't even be the Rumble winner if it wasn't for The Rock. And then Rollins, of course, says that he should face Lesnar in WrestleMania because he did the impossible. He broke Brock Lesnar's ribs. I love that Rollins is just riding that wave now. But I love Reigns here because then Seth Rollins is about to say, me, Mr. Money, and then Reigns cuts him off and says, you get any closer to me, I will knock you into next week.
Dude, that was such a great moment for Reigns.
The delivery, I think, was so on point, dude. I think this
and it felt improvised. It didn't feel like that was supposed to be there. It felt like Reigns was like seriously hostile. And what I loved, and this whole thing, it worked out too, because this entire thing felt so much like a shoot. Like it felt like Reigns was just having this news dropped on him for the first time that he wasn't necessarily going to be main eventing WrestleMania. He was super, super pissed about it. And he did a great job of selling that. I love what Reigns did in this segment. And really all night tonight. He had a great night tonight.
He did have a great night tonight. I can't wait to talk about that more. But not to divert the conversation, Ashton, but to your point, it makes me think again about, things that Austin and Triple H talked about on Austin's podcast about how, Austin said that promos, they feel, too scripted, too forced. There needs to be a greater fluidity, more, organic material being produced. And that's certainly what this felt like, at least in regards to Reigns, responding to Rollins and Bryan and everybody. But then Triple H gets in between, Rollins and Reigns, and he and Stephanie, they kind of converse, and then Triple H finally announces, there's a change in plans. He says, tonight, Daniel Bryan will take on Seth Rollins, and the winner is going to face Roman Reigns at Fastlane. The winner of that match will face Lesnar for the title at WrestleMania. Commentary puts over the idea, Reigns just got screwed. And Reigns is just given this look like, are you serious? Like, I loved his facial expressions, his emotiveness, the body language, because he's just like, you got to be kidding me. And Stephanie, again, kind of coaxes him and says, this is your chance. This is a big opportunity. You may not see it, but this is your chance to punch your ticket and show your family, to show everybody.
Stephanie McMahon? More like Stephanie McManipulator.
I know, right? It's so real. And then, Triple H, I think, pipes in and says, are you in or out? Are you going to do this? And so they're both kind of coaxing him, and Reigns just literally says, screw it.
Yeah.
It's been one versus all this whole time. I don't care if it's you. I don't care if it's you. Let's do it. I'm going to WrestleMania. And I love it. Reigns, I think, at least for the people that hate him, because I know you and I weren't nearly as hard on him as I know a lot of other people were, but even you and I had our criticisms about some of the promos and this and that. I think he's really starting to find himself again and getting back on track. This is a great opening for Reigns.